Take two. How y'all doing? Me? I had a really terrible week. And I tried to make a version of this video and I said something really stupid, and so I'm redoing it. And hopefully will not say stupid things. Although, no guarantees. It's just that kind of week. Cheers, everybody. I do have some good news though. Got a hard copy of Jazzwise Magazine, the August issue with Charles Lloyd on the cover. Pretty cool picture. Yeah. This is just so cool that, you know, someone cares about this. My latest CD with Sam Bird, The Mathematics of War. Yeah. Page 6. Breaking news. News in brief, sorry. Can you see that? Coleman and Bird reunite on combat calculus summation. Spencer, hey man, thank you so much. That is so his style of writing, and let's see what he has to say here. Multi-instrumentalist Rodger Coleman and percussionist Sam Bird follow up last year's triumphant Who Doesn't Fade album with the foreboding vistas of The Mathematics of War. A few copies of Who Doesn't Fade left. If you're interested, I don't know that I'm going to repress it. These 3 extended improvisations coming over like a weaponized version of The Necks or The Dead Sea, sieving through the wreckage of Jack Vance's post-apocalyptic dystopias, are available via Coleman's New Void Jazz imprint as both CD and download. That's amazing. I mean, this is a very slender magazine with, you know, limited real estate for, you know, and there's a bajillion artists way more deserving than me. Anyway, thank you. That's awesome. It makes me feel good about what I'm up to, even though it doesn't move the needle at all. But people are listening. But like I said last week, they're not even for free gonna download this. It's like they'll listen and go like, well, I don't want to hear that again. Like that, you know, why would I do that to myself? I can't say I blame you, really, you know. But it's a beautiful package. Great photography by Jeff McLennan up in Canada, our own glowing 00 cabbage, and the whole design and graphics, everything put together by James Buttery over in New Zealand, and then the mathematical stuff from Rob Clark. I mean, it looks great. You may think it sounds like shit. I don't know. It's not about liking it. It's, you know, there's lots of music out there that like makes you feel good. I don't necessarily, that's not what I'm trying to do. You know? Anyway, here's some music that makes you feel good. And I'm not going to say that guy's name, but this is the latest from Analogue Africa and the latest in their series of limited edition dance records, strictly limited to 2,000 copies, and a beautiful silk screen jacket, really nice. And I believe this is the first Analogue Africa record to be pressed on colored vinyl. Woohoo! It's pretty nice. It actually matches that pink in the cover way better than it actually looks on camera. So yeah, this is 4 tracks of this guy's stuff. I think he's from Cameroon. I could be wrong. I really should have done some research on it. Circa 1982. So there's some drum machine action, and if you can't get with that, then this maybe isn't your thing. But grooves, and it sounds really good, and it is truly uplifting and makes you want to dance around. And if so that's what you're looking for, highly recommended. Limited to 2,000 copies. Yes, I need to do an Analogue Africa series of videos or a big long video because I have almost all of them now, and yeah, great stuff. All right, so where was I? All right, Yeah. So I did a little trade at my local, at Grimey's, which I don't know if I mentioned this before, but they're moving. They're moving from the Wedgwood area all the way over to freaking the other side of the world, as far as I'm concerned. And it really bums me out because it's like, it's an hour each way, and I'm not gonna do that very often. I'm just not, you know. So even though it's gonna be bigger and nicer, and they're gonna have their own venue, so that when they have their little in-stores, it doesn't make it impossible to shop. And, you know, I'll probably go, but it's like really 2 hours in the car to go buy records. Don't know. Anyway, so I did a trade, so I could pick up some things before they move next month. A lot of electronic music. The Electrosonics, electronic music sound. A new concept of music created by... What does it say? Anyway. Note the shrink wrap on here. Limited to 500 copies. This is number 46. So this is Tom Disavelt and Kid Baltan. A recording of early electronic music from 1962. Apparently came out originally on Philips, and pretty rare record, I think. And but this is really fun. This is not that sort of bleep bloop academic kind of electronic music from the era. It's much more like a lounge exotica kind of thing, with titles like Moon Maid and The Raymakers and The Visitor from Inner Space. And it's not strictly all electronic music. There's, I think, some live drums and stuff, but it's really fun. It's really fun, and you know, the sounds are just really, you know, the electronic sounds are very much of that very early. You know, it took a lot of work to get even just anything but just a sine wave out of these things back then. You know, there's, you know, until Moog came along, you know, there was no such thing as a synthesizer. You had to kind of cobble it together, or, you know. Anyway, cheers. Here's to electronic music. And in the background, you're listening to that stuff, sort of. I'm droning away. All right. Speaking of electronic music, I also got these in the trade. Recently repressed the first volume of the Deutsche Elektronische Musik comps from Soul Jazz. This is record A, record B. Experimental German rock and electronic music, 1972 to 1983. I now have all of them except volume 2, record B, which is out of print. A little hard to find, but I have to get them because they're all really good. You know, I was not a big compilations person until the VC corrupted me. It's like, and now, you know, these things are great, and they just really feed your collectors. It's like, oh, you can't just have one, you have to have both, and you can't have just one volume, you have to have 2 volumes, and there's a 3rd volume, and so. But, you know, even the familiar tracks on here, and there's some, it's all great because they're very well sequenced and thought out, and there's enough stuff that's obscure to me that it makes it look really like an encyclopedia of this kind of music. And you know, a lot of that stuff is on vinyl really hard to find, and Soul Jazz does a really nice job of mastering and pressing, and analog, digital, who cares? They're really well done. I'm really glad to have them. I'm gonna have to get volume 2, record B at some point. And I also got these, excuse me, in that trade. I got Future Days some time ago, and so I decided, and they were there. I'm like, okay, I'll get Tego Nego and Ege Bamyase, because, you know, those are my 3 favorite Can records, and you know, these sound pretty good. I believe they're from Analog Masters, and Erwin Schmidt was there during the, you know, mastering for vinyl. But Erwin Schmidt is like, you know, kind of getting up there, and I have to say these sound quite bright. Not in a digital, harsh kind of way. Just, you know, those high frequencies are the first to go, and so, but that's my only criticism of these, you know. Otherwise, they sound very dynamic and they sound very different from the SA CDs, which I've had since they came out, which themselves sound very different from the CDs that came from those same masters. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, and would I like originals? Absolutely. But I'm not going to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for them. I love that stuff, but not that much, honestly. That's a lot of synthesizers, It's like, rare records or synthesizers, These days, I'd rather go with the synthesizers because they make more than one sound, I could get an original Ege Bamyase, but it only makes that one Ege Bamyase sound, whereas the synthesizer makes all kinds of sounds. Does that make sense? Alright. But I do love records, and here's some more. Found these in 2 different places, but now I have both Whirr records. Whirr, Pipe Dreams. Their first album. This is on TP. I'm not sure if this is a reissue or not. And then Sway, which is on Grayface. Limited numbered 300 copies, smoky vinyl, and packed full of weird stuff. I know Tim Guthrie has a lot of Grayface stuff. And so yeah, Whirr are a shoegaze band out of San Francisco Bay Area, and I was not familiar with them until I heard the split they did with Nothing, another shoegaze band I like quite a lot. And so I thought, I like that. I'll get these for barely used and very cheap. And yeah, they're nice. Now the one thing about this, the one on Grayface, which is the collectible label and has all this stuff and it's limited and numbered and blah 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 blah. It's really massively off-center. The pressing is really massively off-center. So I was listening to it with my wife, and it's going, and I'm like, well, normally this would really, I said, normally this would really tick me off, and I would just get rid of it. But this kind of music, which is already so swimmy and modulated to begin with, it's like, why not just slap one last LFO at the end that goes 33 1/3 cycles per minute, and make one last little bit of modulation. Sounds great. Yeah, I'm joking. It's still annoying. Vinyl. I know people are like, put it in a vinyl. Alright. The Chameleons. What does anything mean, basically? These guys were known as the Chameleons UK in the US. I was not really familiar with them. There was supposedly a US band called the Chameleons that no one remembers. But this is an original UK pressing of their second album from 1985 on Static. Yeah, I kind of got this on a lark. I know some people in the BC are into these guys, and Rob Clark, I think, is into these guys. This is really good. This is really good 80s music. Not too far away from what The Cure were kind of doing, and yeah, it's sort of post-punk, pop rock kind of fits in that kind of, yeah, really. I enjoyed this quite a lot, and I'm going to try to pick up some more of their records, although I don't think they're easy to find. Yes. So yeah, Chameleons. Pretty cool. And now back to the 70s with a very mixed bag of a record and a terrible cover. God. Yeah, John Martin, Sunday's Child from 1974 on Island. There's a US copy on Island. Yeah, he's moving into like a, away from like acoustic folky kind of stuff into more like sometimes very dubious electric boogie things here that are like, ooh. But there's enough good tracks on here that it makes it a keeper. I didn't pay a lot of money for it. And he's got such a beautiful voice, especially at this time of his life, that, he's another one of those guys that could sing, the phone book, and it would be great. But he was also a good songwriter. And there's great players on here like Danny Thompson and all that whole like crowd of UK folk people, yeah, I dig it. You know, there's some wince-inducing moments, but you know, what are you gonna do? His whole story's so kind of tragic. You know? That Solid Air record is just like so brilliant. Although it's weird. It's a weird record. Some people don't get it. I think. You know. It's anyway. Cheers. Here's to John Martin. You don't see his records around. And some of his 80s records are really quite nice, in my opinion. All right, this was an interesting find. Coryell Verdot, Messenger of the Sun. Now, the thing at the top is a little misleading. New Age music from Katara Records. Katara Records out of Palo Alto, California, distributed by Fantasy. This is from 1984. Now, Coryell Verdot is a guy from Clearlight Symphony and Clearlight and those records from the mid-70s. Not really new age music at all, but very electronic. You know, the list of equipment is just like synthesizer heaven. You know, PPGs and Prophets and ARP 2600s and just, you know, yeah, the real deal stuff. But similar to those Clearlight Symphony records and that Clearlight record, it borders on the kind of stuff that I really don't like, just in general, which is this really kind of symphonic, bombastic, pompous, sort of overblown, kind of very composed kind of, and we're gonna make our synthesizers sound like an orchestra kind of thing. Like, I really, really hate that kind of stuff. It just, I just do. And this Borg, it like edges towards that, but then doesn't quite cross the line, and goes back to being like tasteful and musical in my opinion. But in no way does this sound like new age music that I would call new age music. It's way too busy and big and dynamic, and you know, yeah. So if you like those Clearlight records, you'll like this, because it's that guy, you know. Good stuff. Interesting. Yeah. All right. So I told myself no more Keith Jarrett records. I've got a bunch. I love his American Quartet stuff and the Impulse records and the you know, and I have a bunch of his solo piano things, but I can't, you know. Excuse me. But I knew this was a big fave in the VC. Keith Jarrett with Jack DeJohnette, Ruta and Daita on ECM from 1973. This is a promo label copy, which is kind of cool. Yeah, this is great, and this has got to be one of the last records that Keith Jarrett made on the electric piano. And he tears it up on that thing, man. He just is so, and it's just, you know. And that's one of the annoying things about Keith Jarrett is that, you know, he's like, oh, no more electric piano. The electric piano's a toy, and only the finest acoustic piano for me, you know, and don't cough, and turn out the lights, and he's kind of a dick. But he was a killer electric piano player, and it's just, I mean, if you like the sound of the electric piano, and his is modified and like ring modulated and stuff, and it's just, this is great. This is really great. It's not your typical ECM record because it really kind of builds steam instead of just sort of floating. Although there's some floaty moments too, you know, when he's like playing flute and stuff. This is really good, really, really good, and maybe one of the best ECM records ever. Maybe, you know, it's a vast catalog. But yeah, really happy I got that. So now, no more Keith Jarrett records. Now, and here's a guy who, I've got a bunch of his records, and I listen to him and I go, yeah, great player, but like unmemorable. Like I look at them on the shelf and I go, I have no idea what that sounds like, except that it's some great guitar playing, you know? And that's Larry Coryell. But I saw this, and I saw the cover, and I saw the lineup, you know, and I was was like, okay, I have to, right? So Coryell, Planet End on Vanguard from 1975. Larry Coryell with the 11th House, and Mahavishnu with John McLaughlin, Chick Corea, Miroslav Vitus, and Billy Cobham. What a lineup. I gotta say, once again, it's like, whoa, that's a lot of notes, yeah? But then at the end, you know, it's like the proverbial Chinese dinner, you know, it's like, oh, eat, and then you're hungry and, you know, an hour later. That's not very nice, is it? You know, I think he had so much facility, like almost too much for his own good, because it was like there was no resistance. He could just, like, you know what I mean? And John McLaughlin could be a little like that too, but John McLaughlin, I don't know, this side of tasteful is, and to me, to my ears. Anyway, I mean, this is a rockin' jazz rock fusion record with like some great guitar wankery. That's your bag. You know, and I'm gonna put it on the shelf with the other Larry Coryell records. And I'll be like, oh, what does that sound like? I'll put it on and it'll be, oh yes, like all the other ones, basically. I have a problem. I do. All right, one last record. Oh, 21 minutes. Right. I found this at one of the weirder places that I dig. And it was still sealed. It was only $4, but I sat there and looked at it and had to like research it on my phone. I was like, what is this? Don King. Don King 1, Don King 2. And then on the spine it says Don King 1-2 punch. Okay, so now I assume most of you know Don King, the boxing promoter or whatever with the crazy hair, and this is on what label is this on? It's like a UK label, DVR, from Double Vision, 1985. Yeah, distributed by Rough Trade. Like Don King made a record, and then I'm looking at it, and it's like, okay, produced by Don King and Martin Beasy, who was Bill Laswell's engineer for a while back then, and recorded at BC's studios in Brooklyn, you know, back when Brooklyn was funky. And I recognized some names here, Arto Lindsay being the big one, and Duncan Lindsay, and then did a little research, and it turns out the folks from Mars, you know, the Pump Up Volume people, are also on this. It's kind of their project. Like, they are Don King. And so finally I'm like, okay, fine. And what a weird record. And it'll shelve nicely with, I have a whole, I shelve by genre, which is probably stupid, but this will sit nicely with like my Bill Laswell and John Zorn and that skronky kind of New York, downtown New York 80s thing that I was into at the time. It's that kind of thing, almost unclassifiable. Kind of groovy, but kind of avant-garde, kind of, again, if you don't like drum machines, you're not going to be able to get with this. Although there's lots of actual real-life percussion, and it's similar to, I don't know, it's a very weird record, and for $4, I'm sealed. I'm just, quite happy with that, and, there you go, that's all I got. Thanks for hanging out with me. It was really bad week. Have you ever had dental issues and dental pain? Then you might be able to sympathize. Like, it's the most excruciating pain that you can ever experience. Have you ever seen Marathon Man? All right. It's okay. But my wife's out of town. Oh, jeez. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with me. Thank you so much for your comments on my last video. I'm going to try to respond to them as this uploads tonight. Really great to hear from all of you, and I really do appreciate your taking the time to hang out with me and leave a comment and press the like or the dislike, and great, subscribe, unsubscribe. Speaking of, subscribe, unsubscribe. He hasn't closed that way anymore, but it was good to see Andreas Sonic Mainliner back. And Headley, another guy. Another fat bearded man with records. I was really worried that they were going to disappear. Don't disappear, folks, okay? I've said it before, social media is, to paraphrase Homer Simpson, social media is the cause of and the solution to all of our problems. No, he's right, it's beer. Alright. Anyway, thanks, y'all. I'll see you soon. Bye.